I don't know if you have a children audience that will be hearing this, so I probably wouldn't say it. If it's for adults, I can. Okay, so there were some pages in there talking about whether age 12 to 15 should consider doing a douche up their anal back passage before having anal sex, and how to wash the excrement off sheets after they have anal sex. Personally, for age 12, that wouldn't be what I would want for my children to be reading in their library.
What inspired you to start a movement criticising gender ideology?
I'm a mum of two young children, an age 4 boy and an age 7 girl, and I feel that they are too young and immature in their minds. If they were taught to question their gender, they may actually question who they are, question their sense of belonging and well-being. So I want my children to grow into whoever they're meant to be, whoever that is, but I don't feel as a mum I need to sow seeds of doubt in their young minds.
Senator Sharon Keogan, what are some of your concerns regarding this gender ideology being taught in schools?
I think it's really important for parents to empower themselves in relation to the sex education that has been taught in our schools going forward. And I know there's been many meetings planned throughout the country from concerned parents, and I welcome that. I think people need to be just informed, and then they can make a decision whether they want to allow their children to opt in or opt out of this. But it's really important that parents do inform themselves what their children are going to be taught in their schools going forward.
There was a plan to use the WHO document, the WHO document, as the cornerstone and the gold standard for the sex education. That document is now taken offline, but I have a hard copy. It talks about teaching age 0 to 4 masturbation, as well as choosing a gender identity.
Some parents have expressed concerns that this gender ideology will be taught in schools as a fact, not as in the way that some people believe this and some people may not, but as a kind of unquestioned thing. What do you say to that?
I believe that no matter what the intention is on how they plan to teach it, in a child's mind it will be fact. I have an age 4 and an age 7, and anything their teacher says they consider as gospel and as fact, because that's an authority figure. So maybe they may or may not teach it as fact versus ideology, but that's how a child will perceive it.
And have you got concerns about certain books that are on the curriculum for kids?
Absolutely. The NCCA was supporting there was a Rainbow Reads list. It was sponsored by or put on the Children's Books of Ireland website. They since took it down, but some of the books on the children's section in the school library and in the libraries in the public are definitely of concern. As a parent, I feel that they're indoctrinating children. Some of the language in there is very sexual and grooming.
And what was some of the content? I know you probably don't want to say it for maybe reasons of decency, but can you give us kind of an idea for concerned parents of what is it?
I would recommend that every parent go to all their local libraries. The particular author, the 2 books that I took out were by Juno Dawson, he may be going by James Dawson in some of his books, because he changed over to Juno, a woman's name. This book is gay, and what is tea? Some of the things in the book for age 12 to 15 would not be what I would say is appropriate for age 12 to 15. I don't know if you have a children audience that will be hearing this, so I probably wouldn't say it. If it's for adults, I can. Okay, so there were some pages in there talking about whether age 12 to 15 should consider doing a douche up their anal back passage before having anal sex, and how to wash the excrement off sheets after they have anal sex. Personally, for age 12, that wouldn't be what I would want for my children to be reading in their library.
And have you contacted politicians in this regard, or are they looking into it? That seems...
I sent an email invite to every single politician to come to this event to hear about it, and I did in the press release that I shared with them, talked about the libraries. I've not heard back from any, although Sharon Keogan did attend the event today, and there's a couple brave independent ones speaking out about this, but it seems like everyone in Leinster House seems to be completely brainwashed by the Wokonian agenda.
Who is behind it? What kind of expert groups are advising the NCCA on this?
We heard today, Linda mentioned that Dr. Kate Dawson was linked in with the NUIG Galway. She went around to, I think it was 50 schools in the west of Ireland a few years ago. She spoke that pornography can be healthy. She would be one behind it. It all started as well with the WHO. There was a plan to use the WHO document, the WHO document, as the cornerstone and the gold standard for the sex education. That document is now taken offline, but I have a hard copy. It talks about teaching age 0 to 4 masturbation, as well as choosing a gender identity.
And is there political will to actually listen to parents and address those concerns?
I think if there's enough of people power behind this particular ideology that has been taught in schools, I definitely think the government would have to listen. This is a real vote. Believe it or not, these issues matter to parents, they matter to grandparents, and they're really important for children most of all.
What are some of your concerns about the gender ideology coming into schools?
Look, I've been expressing my concerns for some time. It's just gone to a lunatic stage now as far as I'm concerned, and the way that the curriculum has been skewed. The people that are setting this curriculum, I don't know who appointed them, what authority they have, but government seems to stand idly by and let it happen. We are destroying our children. Our children should be allowed to think freely and learn in school and live and learn, not be forced really and be kind of indoctrinated in one manner to change and to try this and try that and try the other. We're going to have absolute bedlam.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what you see as the conflation of sex and gender within this issue?
I think it's getting very confusing, and the language is now being used in different ways, even in different jurisdictions. As I said, I had learned that male and female used to refer to physical sexes with sexual reproduction. And in many countries around the world, male and female still legally refer to sex, while man and woman are the terms being used for gender identities, psychological gender identities. In the Irish Equality Act, we use the term gender in the Irish Equality Act. The UK use the term sex in their Equality Act. So again, this is where some confusion arises in these different legal jurisdictions. The Gender Recognition Act in Ireland says that male and female are genders, whereas in other countries, as I've said, they're considered physical sexes and man and woman are used for gender. So the language around this is getting very confusing. The other issue then is that some people are bringing in congenital conditions into the argument. Congenital abnormalities or developmental abnormalities can occur in any system of the body, including the reproductive system. And that then ties in closely to urinary developmental problems and also endocrine developmental problems. So these can be very complex.
And so how are they being brought into the argument, specifically the congenital abnormalities?
Well, they're being brought in as intersex conditions or saying people are born in the wrong body. Nobody's born into a perfect body. Congenital conditions can happen, but telling people that their body is wrong, I don't think it's psychologically healthy. Children can be born with cardiac conditions. Children can be born with urinary conditions, gastrointestinal conditions, and yes, they can be born with issues with the reproductive systems. But in my opinion, they're still boys and girls. And in that fraction of a percent of children in whom it is difficult to tell, they are very complex congenital conditions, often with associated urinary and endocrine problems, and they need proper specialist diagnosis, investigation and treatment.
My name is Mary. I am an SPHE teacher and I'm also an SPHE coordinator. And listen, parents just don't realise that the relationships and sexuality education is actually integrated into the full SPHE curriculum now presently for 2023. Before it was actually a standalone section where you had it just solely in the Strand 3, relationships and sexuality. But now actually it's also in Strand 1 where understanding me. So learning outcome 1.4 is actually quoted in the first strand, understanding me and others. And this learning outcome, if I could just read it there, states that students appreciate that sexual orientation, gender identity and gender expression are core parts of human identity and that each is experienced along a spectrum. So this actually isn't in the relationships and sexuality section, Strand 3, it's actually in Strand 1, and it's there to try and help students reflect on the type of person they are and the type of gender that they have. So why are the NCCA asking students to reflect on their gender? Why are they planting seeds of doubt into their minds? Why does this need to be here? So parents don't realise that this actually is in Strand 1 as well as in Strand 3. So as a result, it's very difficult now. It's going to be very difficult for parents to opt out because the schools are going to turn around and say, well look, it's actually integrated into the programme, so we will find it very difficult to actually supervise your children when the SPHE classes are going on where the RSE element is taking place. The resources that are given to teachers to actually teach the gender ideology, it's basically there's a lot of videos there to show students how people who have transitioned are happy about it. So it's really it's really celebrating gender transitioning, and there isn't one video resource or any resource in relation to the story afterwards, after they transition, the regret that they feel, and there's, and the regret that they feel, and there's nothing there. There's not even a definition of the word detransitioning. They have huge, fantastic definitions of all the words associated with the gender spectrum, pansexual, bisexual. It's just to be targeting this at 12 to 15-year-olds. It's just too much for them.
What's your perspective on all this as a teacher?
Well, I just don't agree with gender ideology entering the school system, because we don't know where this is going to go. And especially with the books that they're recommending for teenagers, it is just creating confusion unnecessarily for children. They're recommending some of these indoctrinating books to 0 to 5-year-olds. When children are just like living their lives, they're just happy. They don't need to be confused and informed about this material. It's not necessary.
What can parents do?
Parents can visit their principal, have a meeting with them, and just discuss this with them, tell them their views, their feelings about it, ask, are there any of the Rainbow Reads books in the school, and also ask that they be removed from the school, because they are removed from the NCCA curriculum now. So it's really for parents to be aware of what's going on and to read the curriculum, the SPHE curriculum, and see what's on that, and study the changes that they want to implement. This is it's not necessary for teachers to teach this. If a child is confused at all about their sexual identity, it is for the parents and the professionals to deal with it, not schools. Schools are not equipped to teach this.